Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's an All You Can Geek Spoilercast for X-Men 97 Season 1. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Gast, joined by Mike Sneedy,
What's up?
Corey Feinsad,
I'm the best at what I do.
and Tony Korkanakis.
Magneto was
I expected to get at least a previously on X-Men episode. Somebody say it, but Magneto was right. So, once again, folks, thanks for joining us. We're live on Twitch right now. Please join us live on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. If you miss these broadcasts, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe to get notified when we post all this stuff. This is our spoiler cast for X-Men 97 Season 1. So you've been warned. We will talk about some spoilers freely. I don't have to worry about spoiling things. We've done some episode discussions where we've mindly spoiled some stuff, but I'm not going to care this time. So if we spoil it for you and you haven't seen the show, you should check it out. It's on Disney Plus. It is it's fantastic. We gave our thoughts of it all season. You have been warned. We can get started, guys. This is the spoiler cast, so welcome. Magneto was right. For me, this season was just absolutely. Oh, I disagree with you. Listen, this season was just absolutely incredible. So for me, like, growing up as a kid, the X-Men cartoon. I was not a big comic book reader. I did follow the comic books, but I was not as an adamant reader.
Yeah, you weren't there every week, every month,
No.
getting the next issue. Yeah.
So, like, to have this cartoon, getting all the characters I knew about but didn't know about, that was awesome. Magneto. This is the cartoon that got me as big in Magneto as I was. Like, this was like the start of it. Obviously, Age of Apocalypse comic book was like the pushover. Like, I loved Magneto. And for me, this X-Men 97 Season 1, how could I not say this was incredible? As a Magneto fan, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. From leading the X-Men, Genosha, where he even, like, you thought he was gonna, like, just lose it before Genosha. I'm sorry, you thought he was gonna lose it to the council, and then, like, Genosha happened, and he just did lose it, and just showing the power of Magneto was awesome in that episode.
Omega level.
Yeah, the Omega level. Yeah. And you see why. And it's so amazing. Like, I mean, just so good. What I got from that. Like, I loved the season. I actually just forget Magneto in general myself, but I just love this season. So
no, they did a great job of giving all the characters, and you guys talked about it before, but all the characters had moments and points in this throughout the season where they got featured. And what is amazing is, like, the biggest X-Men of all, like the most popular one, basically was put on the back seat for a lot of the season, and for the finale was not even a factor whatsoever, which is pretty amazing because the show was still fantastic, and you didn't need him. You didn't need Wolverine just taking up all the screen time, which is great because you. And it's great because we got to see some really cool characters and see them use their powers in new ways as well as, like, the familiar ways. We got to see some characters that, this, like we mentioned in the movie cast, like Jubilee, get to show off her ability a little bit, get some badass moves, and, like, the move when the glasses were broken, she puts them down. That was, like, pretty badass, and, like, smashing Bastion through a Sentinel at the end there. Like, good stuff there. And then seeing Rogue just go off and kind of lose it a little bit as well, and getting a little bit of backstory for her. You got Forge, you got Bishop, you got Cable. Like, they're just throwing all these.
Like, I don't know anything about Forge, but we got some more Forge, which was cool.
Yeah, I mean, he was the X Factor guy, right? So it's like you got so much good stuff and so many callbacks from the original series and so much continuation of those stories. And they actually made Scott and Cyclops, like, kind of cool. Like, I'm like, all right, I can see why people. Yeah, like, I can see why he was, like, gonna be, like, the leader
for 2 decades.
Exactly. Like, this guy is supposed to be the leader of the X-Men, like, as far as, like, the blue team or the gold, whatever team he's on. He's like the Boy Scout, sure, but he's also badass, and he looks out for his X-Men, right? And it was cool to see that side of him because, again, he was really put on the back burner for a lot of these past few years. It was cool to see that. I'm very excited for what they do. Well, of course, but I mean, when you have, and, like, the Cyclops, some of the stuff they do with Cyclops in the comics is, like, awesome, right? So, like, his villain turn is, like, amazing, and I'm curious to see if that ever comes out.
Yeah, I think it's a higher probability too with the way things shook down this episode, just with
Thank you.
the Xavier and Magneto thing, because really, honestly, like that, and we don't have to talk about it too much, but where Cyclops is brought on Xavier's teaching, right? Because he's the first X-Man.
Yeah.
But he got to live in an age where people truly hated mutants. Xavier was kind of like, people don't like us. It's like Cyclops is like, people fucking hate us. Like people hated me and hunted me down since I was
over
a teenager.
and over
right.
again.
Like not just once or twice. It's like widespread. But now he gets to see Magneto's point of view, and in the comics, it's mostly like, hey, I'm gonna take both of your teachings and kind of do my own spin on it, right? Where it's like. Yeah, like it's nice to coexist with the humans, and that should be the goal. But like, you got to get your hands dirty, right?
Sometimes you can't do it.
Yeah,
sometimes you can't do it.
Right? It's like, Wolverine, actually do what you're good at and go, kill some political enemies of ours as X-Force, because I'm bringing that back. But yeah, I mean, it's really wonderful because again, like X-Men for me has always been the series that I like the best, just because it had that wide array of cast of colorful members, literally and figuratively, where it's like everybody has their own background, everybody has their own issues, right? Or it's just like a dysfunctional family at times, right? Because like everybody, like it's like Wolverine's the loner, but Gambit's like the mysterious loner, and it's like they butt heads a lot, and then you have like people like Scott and Jean that are trying to have a relationship, and then you have Jubilee who's a teenager and just wants to have fun and live her life. And Rogue with her trauma about not being able to touch people and make connections, right? Physical, but even on an emotional level, where it's like you look at like the other popular characters back in the '90s, where it's like, look, don't get me wrong, I love Batman, I love Spider-Man, but like it's kind of like that's a different thing, right? Where it's just like, hey, we're just playing dress up and we have superpowers, and maybe at best it's like, oh, people are kind of like, oh, you really shouldn't be doing vigilante stuff, or it's like X-Men like, we fucking hate you, you're born different. It's like, oh shit, okay, that's some heavy stuff, to process as a child,
themes
right?
always have been the themes have always been there for that. Like even like the like the cartoon, the original cartoon with the Brotherhood of Mutants, not Brotherhood of Mutants, the Creed group.
Yeah,
what was it called?
I don't remember. Friends of Humanity.
Friends of Humanity. Yeah, Friends of Humanity. Yeah, I just like that was always like it always teaches you stuff. You're just like, man, these people have it horrible, and it's like that's the theme of the X-Men, and it's like to teach you that differences and stuff. But like, I Mike, what'd you think of the overall? Like, I mean, would you like this was a great return? You can't like I know you had some problems overall with things, but
listen. This if you remember my anticipated stuff, this is by far what I was most interested in that Disney Plus was doing. Period. That I heard, and it met and even slightly exceeded those expectations. Now, I have some issues with some of the way things played out. Like we talk a lot about, the morality behind this, and I feel like when we got to the finale, we had to throw the questions out there and make Magneto do something so obviously like Thanos level evil that we had to stop him no matter what. And the question sort of went out the window a little bit at the end of this, and then everyone's friends again, which is kind of interesting. Afterwards, but maybe
we don't
that's
know
because
maybe there's some leftover.
Charles did something.
Yeah,
I mean, when Wolverine wakes up, he might not be too happy to see Magneto, but
when he wakes up,
yeah. I mean, I agree with you, but at the same time, like they did play. So that storyline is pretty faithful to the comics because Magneto's just had enough, right? Where he's just like he is just done negotiating. He's done trying. At least in the cartoon now, it's like he tried Xavier's way. She's like, I will try to honor my friend's dream and do that to the utmost of my ability. And it's like didn't work out. I tried it, gave it an honest, fair shot. And yeah, fuck humanity. And it's like, yeah, but mutants are gonna die too. And he's just like, survival of the fittest, man. Like there will be some mutants that will rise up from this. And yeah, exactly. So it's like whatever.
But what's interesting though too is it wasn't. Like, I don't know. Humanity didn't fuck up until they shot missiles at asteroids, and it was just leftover stuff in Mr. Sinister, really. That
well, I would say it was before that. Like, I mean, they were helping. You saw the Shadow Governments are still helping the Sentinel program.
They had like a freaking shot that took away mutant powers. The Executioner. Right. They had they developed all of that stuff. Yeah, that was all done. Like yeah.
And like Bastion and the the government lady were in cahoots, right? So like the whole time they
That was
were.
a little unclear. I don't know why they presented it that way. That was confusing to me.
Well, he
Like
was always
that
there.
whole
Bastion was always there, like pulling the
that,
strings.
with the whole Genosha, like after Genosha happens, we get her. She's there, but she's injured, and she's arguing with them. And Magneto is captured, but they don't. I don't know what they're doing with him exactly. It was very strange there. I sort of missed kind of what was going on in that whole sequence there.
Yeah, I mean, Bastion was the orchestration behind it all, so he was controlling it. And then she didn't like the
Right.
fact that she didn't know that he was going to basically kill as many people as he did to
What
kick
did
off
she
his rebellion.
expect to happen? Did she
And
just
that
wanted
wasn't
like a
clear.
war to happen?
Well, no,
No,
the thing is that there's like these people that have superpowers, and you don't have superpowers, so now you're threatened, and so you need to find a
yeah,
way in order to protect yourself.
it's just like
And
Winter
you,
Soldier, right? Where it's like
right.
they built those helicarriers because we can't compete with gods, right? So we
Mhm.
have to have something. We
Right.
have to have our own ace up our sleeves. And even Captain America didn't
Right.
know
That
that
was
it was
yeah.
built, under their noses, and it's like, oh shit. And that, to me, that's how I read that situation with the senator later. She's like, yeah, I support mutants outwardly and openly, but we also need to have fucking a plan, right?
Right.
Like, we need to have
You
set.
need to, yeah.
Sentinels.
What
That's why the
like just
Sentinels were
because
created
these, yeah,
originally.
just
Yeah.
like when these people realize they can just wipe us out, like they're kind of holding back right now. We need to be able to defend ourselves in some way, and so you make deals that you may not necessarily have made otherwise, and you form
Yeah,
alliances
that
with
was it.
people that you don't necessarily, you know, would otherwise here because you're kind of feel like you're pushed into a situation where you have no control, and so this gives you a feeling of control in
Yeah,
some way.
control and safety and stuff like that. And it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's real world applicable. Like, like
Hmm.
arming, certain governments or certain rebellious groups, and then all of a sudden, oh, shit goes bad. Oh, who's responsible? Okay, I don't know. That's fucking weird. I mean,
Yeah.
let's not
Right.
talk about politics, I guess. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what this X-Men. That's what X-Men does, right?
That's
X-Men
what they
is
do.
like,
Yeah.
it's what it is. It's
very
and
political.
it brings to light like all these different, not necessarily like conflicts, but there are things that people don't like to necessarily talk about, or when they do talk about it, it gets confrontational, and like X-Men kind of brings it into us into light where you can talk about it a little bit and use fictional characters to represent
Right.
different faction and different things to help educate, not necessarily sway one way or the other, but like, to educate people. And I think that
Yeah.
that's where the X-Men do a
Absolutely.
great
Right.
job of saying this is this way or this way. They're not necessarily the right way or the wrong way. It's like these are the consequences for these actions, and these are the consequences for those actions.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, yeah, and then what the show pulled off, just forget the themes of the actual X-Men thing, but like what the show pulled off integrating that. Now I understand, Mike, you had gripes about the speed of things,
No, I did
and I
too.
would
I
say
mean, the
like
pacing
Storm
was
lose,
very quick.
yeah,
Right?
Storm losing her powers only to regain them before the end of the season. I thought was like I feel like that should have been dragged out. Like they knew they were
Sure,
going to second
I
season.
agree, and I don't think
Um,
Professor X should have come back
I
this season either.
I
mhm.
agree. So
what the funniest part about Professor X coming back again? I mentioned it a little bit before. Is while he's gone, everyone's like, "Oh, we need to follow Xavier's dream. This is everything he built. Oh, I wish he was here." Then once he shows up, everyone's like, "Fuck you, Charles."
he lied to
And
us
he's like,
all.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's also how real work, the real comics go. Because like, here's the thing: like, Xavier gets kind of idolized and worshipped in the cartoon continuity, just because like, you don't have decades of different writers adding in their whole thing. But like overall, Xavier's done a lot of scummy shit. Like canonically, so you had the original 5 X-Men group that were captured by Krakoa, and then he sends and forms that second group, which is like Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, etc., to go save the original 5. In the comic continuity, there's a team between those two that he sent there first, and they all died. And it's
Wow.
like, what the fuck? And like Xavier like mind wipe a part of Wolverine and stuff like that because he's like,
Well, I mean,
yeah, I still
yeah,
need
he
Wolverine to be
hijacks
a
powers.
killer, like right? He's like, he knew it. He's like, I need a killer on this team, and I'm gonna use Wolverine, right? So it's like, the Danger Room is actually a sentient being. It's an alien being, and he like kind of suppressed it, and for decades nobody knew, and they found out, and they're like, Professor, you're what the fuck, man? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Classes in
I
session.
never heard that one.
I didn't know
No,
that.
but
But
I mean, this version, I don't know if he's done much of those things yet.
I mean, he
But
hijacked the powers of Magneto. I mean, that was
I mean, he had plenty of reason there.
yeah. But I
Well,
mean, that's
The thing is with the finale also, it seems like it worked, which is not what we thought would happen. Maybe
oh yeah,
I
yeah, because
thought
we thought Onslaught
I
was
thought
coming,
things.
but yeah,
Yeah, it seems like it worked, and it also seems like Scott didn't even need to really shoot his wheelchair because Phoenix Deus Ex Machina showed up
we
out
didn't.
of nowhere
You didn't know
to
Phoenix was going to show
solve
up.
the other
That's what
problem.
Scott didn't know that, but yes,
Right,
We
but
knew that. Scott did not.
we knew that, but Scott didn't know that. Yes,
right.
I knew Phoenix was going to show up there.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like
I
the
mean,
Hulk,
that's yeah.
when in danger.
And
No, we go back again. For the storm stuff, I think that was the reason why they did those half episodes. They wanted to create more of a sense of time passing, like off screen,
yeah.
than what we actually saw on screen. Because again, while it was happening, I'm like, why are we doing these weird like half episodes? This isn't like Rugrats or something with two 15-minute segments or those old kid shows like that. I was like, why are we doing this? But I think that's why they just wanted to convey the sense that more time passed than what they put on screen. It still felt a little rushed, and after that first episode where it ends with like Forge literally saying "I love you" to her after spending what seemed like about 10 minutes with her, I was like, ugh. But that was probably my least favorite episode of the whole season. I think that third episode was the half video game thing with
Oh
Jubilee, which was fun but
yeah,
inconsequential, and also kind of I don't know
very Scott
understandable.
Pilgrim-ish.
yeah,
Yeah,
Mojo video game. Yeah,
Mojo. Yeah, but otherwise it was fun. I could use a little more Wolverine. He had a good action moment in the second to last episode with
Mhm.
Nightcrawler, who is always fun for an action set piece as well. Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
yeah,
But otherwise it's real good. I
yeah. I mean
wasn't
that.
upset with much.
I mean, yeah. So the finale itself, we didn't really spoil on the movie cast, but like the finale was I thought was very good. We had, I mean, the oh shit moment of just before with the adamantium being ripped out of Wolverine from Magneto. That was the
Yeah.
that was a great moment from the previous episode that was carried over into this that caused Xavier. But what was the other thing? Well, we knew the Phoenix was coming back, but like it was a great finale.
I
That
don't know if we knew
again.
that Phoenix was coming back though, because part of the whole, I mean, maybe you guys did, but I was questioning it because part of the whole thing, right, was Jean's morality about like what part of my memories are real versus like, Madeline's, right? And it's like
Yeah.
who actually was the host of the Phoenix powers? And it wound up not mattering. The Phoenix is like, whatever, you're both the same. Like, I can fucking,
Mhm.
inhibit both of you. Like, it's one and the same, right? So that was, in my opinion, a big revelation because that is not a comic thing, to my knowledge. At least
Yeah.
it could have changed in the past decade because I haven't kept up with it. But that was a cool sequence to see where the Phoenix doesn't, make a difference between the two beings.
And Cable had some great moments. Cable finally had some just shooting a gun.
I mean,
I thought
we
it was
finally
great.
know that Cable has actual mutant powers.
Yeah.
And it's supposedly very strong. Uh, actually, I think I read like he's supposed to be like off the charts more powerful than anyone else. But it's funny because as a kid, you see the show, he's just a guy with a gun. You don't even know he
Mhm.
has powers.
Yeah, well,
So
the way it works again canonically is that the technovirus, he has to use his powers to suppress it at all times. Like he trains it to even work in whatever comic logic. Even when he's sleeping, like he's still using
Constantly,
his powers
yeah.
passively to constantly be suppressing the virus and stuff like that. So he's pretty much handicapped like 24/7, where it's like, oh, you can't even use your mutant powers really and stuff like that. Which is when we get into Age of Apocalypse and you see his Age of Apocalypse version, also known as X-Man Nate Gray, I think, or whatever his name is. Like he's just, like you said, off the chart. Like he is fucking ridiculous. He can like pretty much 1v1 most characters at that time in the, Marvel universe and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, like I love the season. That's a show.
Yeah.
The
I
finale
think
was very good. But
as far as like the
fun.
season goes too, it's like they raise the stakes as far as like what
Yeah.
people like
Spoiler,
as far
sorry.
as
Oh,
what you're expecting, right? Like
yeah.
there's character deaths and
Yeah, I mean,
like,
Gambit's
there's
that
consequences to
situation, yeah.
certain things, right? So it's like, and once that happens, you're like, oh, this is serious. This is like we don't know what's actually going to happen now. Like, we have an idea of what the comic book storylines are, but are they going to follow? Because they have been changing things and they've been doing their own thing with it. So now it's like, oh, actually, this is kind of cool because I don't necessarily know if the things are going to play out the way that they do in the comics here, because
That's
there are stakes now.
yeah, that's
It
one
made
of
it
my
feel much more the agency was there.
yeah, that's one of my favorite things though about it is that we're not getting the straight comic book adaptations. Like I know everyone's like, "Oh, let's get this story," but I'm like, I don't. That story's been told. I want you to feel the freedom to do something different or go your own way with it. And it seems like they've mostly have. There's been a little bit of check marking going on here and there for different parts. But you know what? I will say, by the end of the season, they sort of sold me on the whole Madeline Pryor arc. At
Yeah.
first, I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we even going there? And is that it? But by the end of it, like, it's like, all right, now we have some sort of interesting character stuff between, Cable. I mean, really making Cable a consistent character sort of sold it
Mhm.
on for
Yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
It made it work in the end. So,
One
fun
thing I
stuff with
didn't like was like him
Jean.
saying like Jean was his mom or something. Like, didn't he
Yeah.
say that? Like, I was
He
like,
did
wait,
say
what?
that. Yeah,
You're
he
not.
did
I
say
thought
that
you
too.
said your
Yeah, he,
mother-in-law or whatever.
No, he said it at the
he
end. It
did.
didn't matter. Yeah,
He did. He
Oh,
did
oh,
for
the
the
end.
whole
Okay.
time from the end.
yeah.
Yeah. I think. All right. Do we want to talk about the end with this sort of almost stream of like teasers for
I mean, we
everything
had
that could
Yeah. So
potentially
before we
cameos.
Cameos?
get
We
there,
had
I do want to
yeah,
highlight the Genosha episode
Yeah.
5. Or
Right.
sure.
whatever.
Five.
Right.
I
That
think
was
that
That's
great.
what
was
we were talking about. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to highlight because I think that is the. I mean, it was good across the board, but I think that was my favorite, and I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
critic.
That's
I
they
think it's
they
the best one.
submitted that
Yeah,
episode for
As yeah,
like all the award
as an
stuff.
award.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's like the
That's
Bill
that's their
episode in The
award winning
Last of
episode.
Yeah,
Us, right?
Yeah,
That's the one that stands out.
right? Because
yeah,
like that
absolutely.
was mostly new material, and like thing is, I never really cared too much about like Rogue nor Gambit in terms of like, hey, they're really cool characters. And we're like, hey, they're
Hmm.
cool. They have their place on
They
the
have this
team,
little fling thing going
right?
on,
But
a
it's like that,
situationship.
right? And that's the whole thing. It's like, hey, they're in a situationship, and that's it. That's the line. That's the joke. That's the whole, the depth of a puddle or something like that. But they really took that material where Rogue has again her trauma and her, fears and wants and desires. Where it's like I can't. I love this man, but I can't touch him, right? And like even before the end, where you have the awesome action sequence, like when Gambit's in his room and he's just kind of like looking at himself in the mirror. He's like, dressed up and stuff like that. Just seeing the emotions where he's like happy to hear Rogue's voice, happy that she's in the room, happy that they're about to go dance, and stuff like that. And she's like, yeah, I gotta go back with the old man dick. Like, right? Like I could do things with Magneto. It's like, oh, honey, like, come on, man. Like, what are you doing here? Right? Or
Sugar.
it's like, I felt so bad for Game in that moment. And, I'm glad that Rogue wasn't just like, she realized it, right? Where it's like, this is more my instinct and urge than my heart, right? Where it's like, she's like,
Yeah.
I can't do this. It's nice that this is something I can do that I want to do, but it's not, my heart's not in it, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that got to me was that Gambit didn't find that at the end. He didn't. Like we as viewers, we realized that.
Yeah.
But Gambit didn't get to hear that. Gambit didn't,
Yeah.
died not knowing
And
that.
after when she wakes up later on, and it's like all she cared about was Gambit. She
Right.
didn't even care like Magneto. Like, oh, and like Nightcrawler has to remind her, and Magneto. Like,
and Magneto.
Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. No.
like no. So
It is interesting though. When I think of the Genosha episode, a little bit compared to the finale, it's a little bit of that thing when, when he's a good guy, Magneto, there's only so much he can do. When he's a bad guy, though, he can take over the world. Like his powers are a little bit inconsistent in this show. It
What he
feels
wants
like.
to do. It's like Charles. He can hijack a power, but he doesn't always do it.
No, but I mean, like this isn't. There's
Magneto always has that power, but
our
when he's
sen-
on the
our
good side,
Sentinels-
he's trying to represent the good side. He's not.
I know, but Sentinels are robots, man, and I'm
Mhm.
assuming they're mostly metal. Like
Yeah, they talk
Why
about that in the
can't it-
cartoon.
why
They made
couldn't-
him out of plastic.
all of them.
They said that in the
doesn't
cartoon
look like
years
plastic.
ago. The old '90s cartoon talked about
They
that.
say that here in
Yeah.
this season
when
also.
Magneto, there was one episode in the X-Men old cartoon where
He
he was
tries to
trying
take
to.
it
He's like,
over.
you sent me Sentinels to kill me, and he even says like that.
Right.
I can take you out, and then these Sentinels say to him, "This
We're
generation
plastic."
is made of plastics."
Yeah.
Yeah,
But again, they all went to sleep with the same EMP that he did later.
yeah. The EMP is
I don't know.
different,
You
but
couldn't.
yes,
You couldn't target something like whatever. It was interesting, I guess. But that's how it works when
yeah.
someone's a
So
bad guy and a good guy.
what do we think about the finale with the all the appearances
Cameos.
and yeah.
So first
Yep.
of all, I just have to say the appearances were cool, but once again, fuck Captain America, fuck Iron
Yep.
Man, fuck the Avengers. Outside of the actual MCU, these characters are fucking trash, and they deserve every fucking thing that happens to them. Because
They are
fucking
yes
Captain
men.
America and
They're
Iron
yes
Man are
men.
just in the White House room being like, "Please, Mr.
standing
President,
there.
don't send missiles at Asteroid M. It's gonna be really bad optics. We're not
Oh,
gonna
like
do
I
anything
got
about
an
it, but we
Iron
really
Man
don't
suit that
want you to."
can like break the atmosphere
Yeah.
and go up there and help
Yeah.
maybe and do something.
Yeah.
It's like this bug crawl.
Fuck Captain America. Fuck Iron Man. Pieces of fucking shit.
Yeah, no, they're
I
yes
think,
men.
I think
They're
it was
definitely
funny
yes
too
men.
that they weren't even doing a good job at like really protecting like the politicians
No,
either. They just sort of stood there.
They just stood there. Like Daredevil's doing more shit, and he's fucking street level.
Daredevil's. Yeah, well, Daredevil's
Cloak and
stopped the
Dagger.
Yeah, Cloak and
Cloak and
Dagger
Dagger showed up,
fucking
that's right.
were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the MJ
So-
Peter Parker
Yeah.
cameo. That was
Yeah,
great.
so that actually was more significant than it seems. First of all, we know that we saw a Spider-Man before, but now seeing them in those clothes, we know that this is the same like, animated 90s Spider-Man is meant to be then. But that also sort of confuses people because that show went on for one more year and that
Yep.
last season, I guess MJ was missing or
Mhm.
something.
Whole episode
That's
ends
how the
with
series ends. Was like
yeah,
him still
so-
looking for Mary
Yeah.
Jane.
like she was a clone or something that he was with, and then he goes with Madam Web
So
to
is that-
find Mary Jane, and that's how it ends.
Is that the clone then, since this is still 97?
I have to wait
That's
for
the
it.
question.
Spider-Man 98. We'll have to wait for Spider-Man 98, like you said.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the ends, we get lots of stuff teased there, almost
Yeah.
like a grab bag of will they go with this? It seems like
Mm-hmm.
of stuff.
It is
Yeah,
a
Morph
lot.
what do
even
we
like
think of all
turns
that?
into Mr. Fantastic at one point.
Yeah.
Morph's powers don't make sense to me either.
Any time he turns into somebody that has a physical superpower, he can get that power. If it's a non-physical, like Jean Grey's or Professor X or Magneto's
Do
magnetism,
we count
You can't.
super speed as a physical power?
your body, I guess.
Well, it's not
It's using
Speed
your
Force,
body.
So,
Yep.
but and that's the thing is I really did like was that they took a bit more creative liberty with their powers, and I'm pretty sure at the beginning I read a tweet from one of the
definitely
animes
better.
that said like they were challenged and tasked with, hey, try to think of other ways that they could creatively use their powers rather than just like, hey, we've
Mhm.
seen Rogue, punch something really hard before.
It definitely took a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom influences.
Oh, absolutely! I loved all those.
It's not just
nods.
Rogue, but like Cyclops.
Oh yeah, in that last episode, he
Oh,
like
Cyclops
literally
had a
did
ton
like,
of it.
the,
Yeah.
the whole
Optic
like
blast.
X,
If
Yeah.
Optic blast. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I didn't know what they were from, I'd be like, that's kind of weird. Why is Rogue doing a somersault there? There's no reason for that. or it's like, why is that such a wide beam? That doesn't make sense with what's happening here from Cyclops.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But no, I mean, like I said, the finale was great. Little apocalypse
definitely amped up
appearance
the
there,
action though, in general.
at the end.
Well, so that's the thing, like the Gambit thing, the card right at the end, and like in the comics, Gambit turns into death, right? As
He's a
as a horseman.
Yeah, he's a horseman.
Yeah.
And
So
I think
that's
isn't
yeah.
Storm a horseman at one point also?
At some point, but
Wolverine.
And
is as
Wolverine.
well.
Wolverine,
Yeah.
that's how he gets his adamantium back.
Right.
So
you have Gambit, Storm, and Wolverine already
assembled, yeah.
Yep. And like Storm's got some trauma there. Who knows? And then obviously we know Wolverine's got trauma, and then Gambit's dead, right? So I think with that teaser there, we're definitely gonna get the
Right.
Four
I
Horsemen.
mean, so the big brain thing here is, and the surprise to me was how they ended it. So first of all, just to address, because like thing is like I was like, oh, they'll probably open up the era with the Age of Apocalypse, but also leave the door open for Onslaught Saga, right? Because the whole Onslaught thing happened
That
because
was the big
Xavier
tease, right?
mind fucked Xavier pretty much. And I'm sorry, really quick, I do have to say that the episode that the last episode and a half where it was Xavier in Magneto's mind, I have to really shout out like that I liked and enjoyed their brotherhood, almost like the relationship where it's like, even though like Xavier and Magneto, I get it, like they're friends, frenemies, whatever, and stuff like that, but I really appreciate how Xavier was trying so hard to like not let his friend down. And I felt like they even like skirted the lines of like, hey, these guys are just like really good friends. Where like he kind of like grabs him and hugs him. He's like, I'm not gonna let you go, right? He's like, even if I'm dragged down too, like I won't let go. And I was like, oh shit, like okay, like kind of hits me in the feels, right? Because like those two, it's like for the longest time they only had each other and their shared dream and stuff like that. So I just want to shout that out. But with Magneto coming back, so the way the comics happen, Magneto gets mind fucked by Xavier to the point where the next time he shows up, he's like de-aged a little bit. He has
I thought it was a coma.
Yeah, he was in a coma. Like when he comes out of it, he's younger and he goes by the name Joseph, who eventually becomes an X-Man in his own right. And it's like, what the fuck? And so if they speedrun or just completely bypass that, I'm okay with, right?
Yeah,
because that was weird. Kind of like the Wolverine nose thing, which I hope they skip that part or speedrun.
Seemed like it since
we still don't know where Wolverine and Morph are right now.
Right. So that's the thing that was really interesting to me. So the way that it ended, right? You have half the team displaced in the past, and we get to reveal it's like, oh, they're where Apocalypse is, right? And so where it's like, oh shit. But at the same time, Cyclops and Jean Grey, they get blasted to the future, and that thing is which I
place.
Yes, and that's the whole thing is because I didn't realize when they were like, yeah, we have some interesting directions. I had no idea they were going to adapt that because that's the comic line. I think it's called The Adventures of Cyclops and Jean Grey, where they get sent to the future or their minds or spirits or whatever. Comic logic again, and they get to raise Nathan from a child. They spend like I think a decade with him or something like that in the future, but it's all leading back to Apocalypse. So I think it's really cool thematically and interesting to see how it'll turn out. Where I feel like we're gonna have a group next season where it's you have the past group of X-Men helping
doing stuff,
Apocalypse there. You're gonna have the future, Cyclops and Jean Grey with Apocalypse there, but then you're gonna also have the modern X-Men, like the current day, whatever the remnants are. Because again, Forge and Bishop have that conversation where it's like, I don't know where fucking half the X-Men are. They're dead. And he's like, I love that line from Bishop where he's like, that's a funny thing. We always start that statement with the X-Men are gone, right? There's like, it's like, you'd be surprised how little that sticks. And it's like,
that was a 6 month jump.
6 month jump, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, but why? Who and why? It teleported them everywhere in the world.
We don't know that.
What's
we'll find
up
out.
with that? I know.
We'll find out.
It's
the
pretty
questions,
random.
Mike. It's the questions.
I know, but
Storm is missing too, right? Storm wasn't.
They're all missing.
Yeah.
They're all everybody except for Jubilee and Jubilee and.
No, I'm saying
Sunspot.
But I'm saying like Storm was not. We didn't see her in the past or the future either.
No, she was. Wait.
I thought she was with the group in Apocalypse.
With the
I thought she was with the Apocalypse group.
Yeah, she
was.
The Magneto
Magneto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm misremembering then.
I thought she was
Magneto's
there.
just walking around now, just a flesh wound. Wolverine, really.
He's fine. He's fine.
Did not.
The stab through the chest is nothing.
He'll heal. It's by metal, so he'll just heal himself up. So.
But,
no, I mean, and then obviously the very end in the present day where Apocalypse picks up Gambit, like the Queen of Hearts and stuff. So that, I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, cool. All right.
Things what do we want to see in the second season? Want to see. For me, I need a little more Beast and Wolverine, but because both of those are returning cast members, and I feel like they were a little underutilized this season, especially since we got the voice actors back. I'd like to see them do a little more. Beast really didn't do much of anything this entire season.
Beast never really has a moment, so he's due for one. Yeah, so we'll see. That would be interesting.
I mean, I think he had a good moment. He took over the Sentinel.
Yeah, he drove the Sentinel.
He didn't have a fight, I guess, or anything like that.
He said, "Fuck you" to that reporter lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trilby or Trish, whatever her name is. But that'll come back into play. But I mean, the thing is, I don't know. To be honest, knowing the comics, like Beast is a fucking scumbag, so I am okay with not seeing Beast.
Beast is a scumbag too now.
No, Beast is a huge scumbag, like absolutely.
Age of Apocalypse, he's terrible. He's awful. Then I don't know. Like,
Well, that's Dark Beast. And
yeah, I know, but
the whole joke is that like, oh my god, like the comics get so stupid where it's like Dark Beast gets pulled into the current continuity, and there's this whole thing where it's like there's Beast and there's Dark Beast, and Dark Beast manipulates things, or it's like people start to blame Beast for him and stuff like that. But then obviously they find out and they're like, oh, it's Dark Beast. Oh, it's just Dark Beast doing Dark Beast things. Silly guys. And then at some point, Beast does something bad, and they're like, oh, that was probably Dark Beast. He's like, no, that was me. And it's like, oh.
We have to kind of watch for this now.
It's like, huh. Okay. So now we have 2 Dark Beasts. Okay, yeah. But yeah, Beast does a lot of... Like, Beast does something so bad where the Watcher fucking shows up. The Watcher shows up, and he's like, you know, again, the whole thing, like, I can't interfere, I can't do whatever, and I've seen some shit. And he goes, Hank, you disgust me, and just, like, fucks off. He's like...
You know what? Maybe Bastion was right. All these mutants sound like trouble.
I mean, the thing is, like, that was interesting to me, is, like... I saw some people on Twitter get confused. They're like, did Scott really try to talk no jutsu Bastion at the end there? And it's like... Well, you know, I mean, you can't beat him, right? You know, invite him to join you and stuff like that. It's like, you know, with the whole, like, yeah, let's stop fighting the future. Let's just, you know, team up and stuff like that. But it wasn't meant to be.
Nope.
But, I mean as far as what I want, I want them to take their time, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think the pacing was my biggest issue. And again, it wasn't bad, but just like, it's like, hey, we're doing this one arc in an episode. It's like, holy shit. Like, what are you talking about? Right? Yeah. Because again, my whole thing is like back when these shows were airing on, you know, Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that, the seasons were like 20 something episodes long, right? Yeah. And it's like we have 10. So it's like
yeah, I mean, I don't mind them taking half like 5 episodes for an arc. That's cool. There's so many arcs. So like I understand they want to cover a lot as much as they can because they're not going to get infinite seasons. So you want to do 5 episodes for an arc, that's fine, but don't do 1 episodes again. I get that. I agree. So I'd like to see them take their time with things. I'd like to see them bring in, I mean, time travel is going to come into it more again. I'm sure it's just a matter of like we'll see what.
I don't want that much.
It's going to happen with Bishop back. It's going to happen. But
I want to see this lead to Age of Apocalypse. That's what I want to see.
That's what
the Apocalypse thing. That's where I think we're going to. Yeah, the Age of Apocalypse is where we're going to.
Yeah, because I really want to see like in my kind of headcanon right now, where like the perfect scenario would be is you have 2 X-Men groups who are Splinter right now, and then you have Forge and Bishop, and I really want them to form X-Force, just because, like, if you look at that list, that board that he had on the thing there, it's like, all the X-Men are gone, but, like, it's like, you have people like Colossus, you have, Magic still around, and stuff like that, so it's like, you have Psylocke, it's like, yeah, you should fucking form X-Force, man, like, go fucking do it, like, it's like, hey, you're not Xavier, like, somebody's got to keep the peace around, like, you know, and fight for mutants, and, like, just hold the fort down, right, while the others are gone and stuff like that. So that's my headcanon, and leading into a season 3 Age of Apocalypse, that would be my peak.
Yeah,
I think
for
so.
sure.
I think so too. So okay, all right, guys, that's gonna wrap up this Spoilercast. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, Twitch on Tuesday nights 8 o'clock. Please join us. If you can't, we're on YouTube. Subscribe to both channels to get notified when we go live or when we post. We'll see you guys next week. We are out. There we go. Okay. That is a lot of content today.
Yeah, of course he had to have some fucking spammer tonight too.
Yeah.
Some bot thing.
Yep.
Sentinel.
Yeah, exactly.
Bastion,
Rogue
goddamn
AI.
him.